Cooking, to me, are not only some of the most important parts of my family, but powerful and loving ways to connect with others. The only thing to turn to sometimes is my favorite comfort food, baking in the kitchen or eating with family. I've learned so much from my mom and dad, standing next to them at the stove, or sitting across the kitchen counter from them, intently watching as they chopped. But all of that happened when I was younger. Now it's, sometimes, me telling my dad about the latest cooking trick I've learned, or handing my mom a plate of food when she's home from work, even though I definitely had to call her asking how to do something along the way. On tonight's menu, we're having a Puerto Rican feast of sorts, all of my childhood favorites, because over the past 15 months, it's been really important to go back to what makes me feel happy. Yuccan escabeche is something that my mom makes a lot at Christmas, but not really any other time of the year. And back in 2020, when it was just me, my two brothers, and my mom for the holidays, the dish kinda didn't go super well, leaving us a little disappointed. So first up, it's redemption time. I'd like to preface this by saying that yucca is really hard to cut, so please be careful. So, back in March of 2020, those first few weeks at home seemed like a godsend, even though I was a little scared about everything happening out in the world. But it seemed like an easy way to stay safe and finally a break after quite a few stressful months in a row. Except for pretty soon, those people that I used to talk to every day without fail stopped reaching out to me, and I didn't want to be the first one to text for the 9th time. I missed my classmates, teammates, and honestly just the clerks at the grocery stores that I used to smile at. I love being alone, but there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. I enjoy having my own company inside my head, thinking my thoughts without disruption, letting my brain wander, being my own devil's advocate. It only gets bad when those thoughts turn to doubts about how I compare to others, how everyone else seems to be more connected to others, even just happier with and around others. And that's when I began to feel a little more isolated. Over the internet, there seems to be so much space between people, so much room for misinterpretation. But slowly, those family FaceTimes came closer to imitating real gatherings. The Zoom game nights for people's birthdays felt exciting again, and staying up at night texting my best friend genuinely brought tears to my eyes. I was laughing so hard. This feeling of isolation hasn't really gone away yet, at least not entirely. But I've been able to at least try and combat that feeling by connecting more through food. It seemed harder at first because I couldn't bring my friends at school breakfast burritos before class started, or cookies for my coaches anymore. And although I feel a bit stupid saying it, I was able to share with others through social media. There are so many people out there with different or similar backgrounds, ages, and aspirations to not only share your story with, but to get to find out about theirs. It's not super close to having a meal with someone you love, but for me, it's been a really good first step.
You're not doing like Salt Bay.
Because I'm not Salt Bay.
But you could be.
It's hard to feel too alone with all the family mofongo making sessions, game nights, and binge watching Criminal Minds, but there are still days when I'm jealous of my past self for having so many opportunities to be with others. For example, 2 years ago at one of my brother's graduation parties with all of our family and his friends, my mom made these little mofongo balls. It's so much less exciting to graduate, to move on to a new chapter of my life when I don't get to do it with the people I love the way that my brothers were able to. Being heartbroken kinda really sucks, and that's where I was at in fall of last year. And I don't think that I know all that much about it, because I'm just a kid and for some reason my feeling that way doesn't seem very valid. Anyways, rice and beans were my then boyfriend's favorite meal I'd make him, so here goes. It was weird because this person I shared so much of my life with for the year prior gets on a flight and leaves, and I know we're not together, and I know that it's not okay to love them anymore, but it didn't feel like anything had changed. Slowly, though, I felt that change. I felt it when I didn't have as many people to cook for, when dates and anniversaries passed with no meaning, when there were less people to tell about that big news that I was so excited about. It feels so isolating when a place, food, song, or even a season reminds you of someone that you don't particularly want to be thinking about. Maybe at one time that memory would have made you smile and go ahead and continue thinking about them, but not anymore. Then there was anger, which I definitely wasn't expecting, because I'm not an angry person, but anger was more like an I'm better than you and I should act like it phase. Not saying that that's true at all, but this period consisted of a lot of Ariana Grande pump-up songs and being surprisingly productive. My college essays were done in record time, and you know how I mentioned sharing food over social media? I did that more too. More Instagram posts of food that I was enjoying, testing, or the people, aka my family, that I got to share it with. This even prompted me to start reaching out and messaging other people online, something that is very much outside my comfort zone. But I'm happier now because of it, and a little bit bolder and more confident too. All of that sadness and loneliness, I think it was worth it. This might be a bold claim, but I feel like I've wasted my youth. Maybe not my youth, but at least my years in high school. This was the time I had to be carefree, to do what I wanted, to some extent, and still be cared for by others. I feel like I've wasted all this opportunity, but when I think a little harder, I don't know what I actually would have changed.
Yes? Oh God.
Maybe it's because I never took photos of the exciting moments, of the highest highs and lowest lows, but then I'm able to look at other teenagers' lives, at least through the lens of social media, and think that they've done so much more than me. Okay, yeah, so let's play this out a little bit. Let's say that they went to more parties. Good for them. I don't like those, so why would I go? Why would I stop myself from having a better time hanging out with one or two friends instead, or even spending that night alone doing something I really enjoy? AKA late night cookie baking sessions, using a wooden spoon instead of a hand mixer because I don't want to wake my mom up. Last spring, it felt like everybody and their mother started a nonprofit. Again, good for all of you, helping so many people in the community, doing a lot of good, and to be honest, I haven't thought of a good way for me to rationalize the fact that I haven't done that. But we live in a competitive area, an area that feels so normal until you remember that it's a bubble where every parent wants to make sure that their child is a bragging right, where every child is fighting to go to that school, get into that program, receive those awards. It's productive sometimes, but it can also be really easy to get caught up in all of it. We're also just kids, and it's okay to be growing up and not have much to show for it except for yourself. The most important way for me to remember that I did not, in fact, waste my time in high school is to think about who I was in 8th grade. Sometimes I don't even recognize how much I've changed and grown up, how much shit I've gone through in the past 4 years. It wasn't awful, but it definitely adds up when you put it all together. My 13-year-old self would be so proud of who I am now. She would be so proud of what I've created and accomplished, the people that I've met, loved, and been loved by, the places I've gone, even taken myself to. And she would for sure be proud of my still bad, but not too awful knife skills. In the end, that's all the comfort I need. All I need is to know that I am better now than I was before, because that means that I did not waste these 4 years. I've actually used them quite well. I've talked about my mom quite a bit, and if it isn't too obvious yet, I love her a lot.
Oh God. Nothing. We're good. Oh God. Oh God.
She is my biggest inspiration, my favorite role model, and my very best friend. It's really hard to see the person you love the most in the world hurt, and I'm not trying to get all up in her business or anything. But when she was hurting, that's kind of when I started to cook for her more often. Still not often enough, in my opinion, but more. Pastelone is a family favorite, and Mom has been making it for my brothers and I since we were little, typically when our dad was on a business trip. My mom's friend from college calls it banana cheeseburger. I think of it more like a shepherd's pie, but also not at all, and one of my friends calls it Puerto Rican lasagna. So it's just kind of in between all of those. Might not sound the most appealing, but it smells and tastes like home. The women in my family, no offense to the men, have taught me quite a bit about how I want to live my life. They're all so incredibly independent and strong, and will also laugh about absolutely anything. They're the ones that make going out to dinner embarrassing, but also really funny and enjoyable. They root me in my culture, at least the part of mine that overlaps with theirs, and it makes me feel so grounded and loved. Let me talk about that for a little bit longer. Family, to me, consists of not only the people I am blood related to, but the people I love unconditionally. According to my mom, friends become part of the family when they open our fridge without asking, which is, honestly, really accurate. That's why my culture is different than that of my cousin with the same background as me. Although we're both Puerto Rican, I'm also who I am because of the places I've lived and the people I've met there. This last year, more than anything else, has taught me how much I truly value my family. Although it's been isolating not seeing friends or going to events, there's nothing I would have changed about my habits during this pandemic, because I did it all to keep them safe. There's really nothing as awful as being scared for a family member's well-being.
Yeah. I feel like adding the sound effects of ouch, 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 ouch.
Okay. Thank you, Mom, for that.
You did not enjoy that? I enjoyed that. Ooh.
Hey, Lucas, can you double check that she's getting it all, please?
What
Is it
are
good?
you doing?
Gloop, gloop, gloop,
Is this Tress Alexis?
gloop, gloop.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I'm just
Gloop,
pouring
gloop,
some milk on
gloop,
top for
gloop,
funsies.
gloop, 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 gloop.
Is it thirsty?
There have been so many happy moments I've had with my family while we've been stuck together. So many moments that have reminded me what matters. Although my brothers still won't eat my food all the time, I swear it's good. I promise you it's good. Eating together is one of my favorite things to do. Whether it's over a board game, in the car, at the kitchen counter, or on the couch. That's what makes me feel loved and important. That is why food really matters to me.
This is a lot of food.
I know.